Hope you are all doing well. I thought I would come on today and just talk a little bit about the stuff that I have been reading this week. It's been a pretty good week. When I look back on it, I'm just kind of like, what did we do this week? But I know that I had a ton of orders on my Etsy shop to get done. So I listened to a lot of BookTube and sewed a lot of stuff. I got a lot of orders out. It's really been a blessing. My Etsy shop is just really taking off, and I'm so thankful for that. We also went swimming with my daughter-in-law and my 3 grandkids. I took my kids and we all went. They have like a pool in their apartment complex, so we went and did that. I feel like my lighting is a little funky. I was trying to get a different angle, but it's kind of dark in here. Anyway, and then yesterday we had some drama. My youngest daughter fell down the stairs, and one of my daughters was having a sleepover, so we have friend plus all the siblings plus me and dad racing down the stairs because everyone's like, we heard a crack, we think it's broken, we really think it's broken. So, right, big family drama. One of my daughters sitting half the kids back upstairs like, there's too much. But anyway, it turns out it's probably just sprained, but you know, being the youngest, we had to give lots of good attention, and somebody loaned her some crutches, so she is hobbling along on her little sprained foot, and we'll probably spend a couple of days upstairs as she heals up. So we got that going on. But other than that, I think it's been a pretty chill week. I think my husband and I are probably going to go out today and ding around town a little bit, get some dinner, and we have kind of a date night every Sunday night, and it consists of getting something for dinner and watching Father Brown mysteries on TV. But it's fun. It's what we like to do. So that's coming up tonight. But anyway, I thought I'd share with you guys some of the things that I read this week. I am very much in the Jane Austen July mood. I've been enjoying my reads so far. This month, like all the others, is flying by. We are already it's July 12th today, guys. I don't even know. But as long as it slows down once fall comes, I'm good. Okay, so first thing I read was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I got to looking, I think this was my ninth read of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. It might be the book I've read most. I don't know. It's up there with Wuthering Heights, but each time I read it, I try to focus on something different, or, you know, I just kind of like zone in on something. This time I was picking up on the fact, something that I already knew, but just, you know, zoning in on this, that every time that Mr. Bennet replies to anybody, it's like sarcasm, right? Like the guy cannot speak seriously. It's always sarcasm. It's funny, but Miriam was talking a while back on her channel about parents. She made a video about books that feature good parents. And then she offered, you know, she said in the comments, like, hey, tell us about parents that you love in literature. And I mentioned the Bennets, and we had a little back and forth about the Bennets being, you know, dear to our hearts, but not necessarily great parents. And so because we had just talked about that, like, I already had a lot on Mrs. Bennet, but Mr. Bennet, yeah, he really did check out a lot, didn't he? He really did avoid some responsibility several times that he should have taken. And lovable, but not super down to earth, right? I think that he could have focused a little more on making sure that his daughters would have what they needed when he was gone, that kind of stuff. I don't know, but I don't know. You can't help but love him though, because he is pretty funny. I also was really making some connections with Darcy and his hypocrisy, because, you know, he gets on Lizzie about her family, especially her mother being, you know, socially embarrassing and all the things, but he's got Lady Catherine de Bourgh for an aunt. So he actually has the exact same problem. He actually has the exact same sort of socially rude, unpleasant person to be around in the case of his aunt. And I guess maybe it's just their class, their station in life that keeps her from being seen as the embarrassment that Mrs. Bennet is. But Lady Catherine is just as bad or worse than Mrs. Bennet is. And it's just that you overlook that when they're rich and powerful, I guess. and project it onto the lower classes. I don't know, but I really picked up on the fact that he was in the exact same situation with that, as well as the exact same situation that Elizabeth found herself in regarding her sister Lydia and Lydia's indiscretions. Well, Darcy's sister was well on the way to the exact same kind of indiscretions with the same guy, actually, right? It's just that she was thankfully caught in time and protected again, probably because of her class. They were able to really hush everything up, right? And Darcy even said, as he told Elizabeth the details about Georgiana and her, messes, he even said, hey, let's keep this on the down low. Please don't tell anybody. Nobody knows, right? But Lydia is out there for everybody to see. And thankfully Darcy did show a true character in that instance, right? As Lydia's issues were sort of wrapped up a little. And then there's the obvious one, right, where he, didn't want Bingley to marry beneath him, yet he was perfectly fine proposing to Lizzie. So, I don't know, just, there's a lot of hypocrisy with Darcy, and Darcy's lovable, totally adore him, but there were some hypocrisy things there that I kind of always knew were there, but it just really sort of stood out to me this time, and those are the things that I tabbed in pink this time. So I enjoyed my read through. I read it every couple of years. So I really wanted to read it last summer, like really, really bad, but one of my daughters had it and wasn't giving it up. So I had to wait for this year. Okay. And then I read this book, The Fatal Unpleasantness. I cannot say this I have such a problem saying this with a lisp. I have a lisp, guys, that I very much try to keep under wraps. There's also a little bit of Arkansas in my voice that has developed that I also try to keep under wraps just out of loyalty for the Pacific Northwest where I grew up. But anyway, I am having such a hard time saying The Fatal Unpleasantness at Netherfield. Like, there are so many THs that get all mixed up in there that... Anyway, thank goodness for editing, right? So this is by Claudia Gray. This is book 5 in her Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney series. If you're not familiar with this is a clean series. This is a really good series. Not necessarily Christian, but God and his word are mentioned in just about every book, I believe. But it's not published as a Christian fiction or anything like that. Anyway, but I'm really enjoying these. If you're not familiar with these, it basically takes the characters that Jane Austen created in her main 6 novels and puts them kind of all in the same little world where they all lived at the same time, which they did relatively in her works too, but the author kind of has to fudge a little bit on ages and stuff, right, to get everybody to match up. But anyway, it takes her characters and then it bumps the timeline up about 20 years. And we are actually, the actual main characters of these stories are children from 2 of the love matches in 2 of her books. So you've got Henry Tilney's daughter from Northanger Abbey, along with his love match from that story. And then you have got Mr. Darcy's son from Pride and Prejudice, who he had with his love match. I realize I've been giving spoilers about Jane Austen's books as I described this in the past. So if you don't know, now you don't know. All right. So anyway, basically they team up and they are sleuths and they just solve mysteries. The thing that I kind of struggle with is this author really takes a long time to get to the point, kind of like I am right now. She really drags the stories out, and each story is drug out as well as kind of the overall story that's going on sort of behind the scenes. And I think if these weren't Jane Austen characters, I probably wouldn't stick with the story like I am, just because of how much she drags it out. I know a lot of my friends are reading this series and reading this particular book this month, so I don't really want to talk too much about spoilers, but I did like the story, and the ending is probably the biggest cliffhanger that we have yet. But I was happy with the story, where when I finished book 4 last Jane Austen July, I was not happy with this story and where it ended. So this one I'm much more satisfied, but we'll talk, maybe we can talk more about that in the comment section for those of you who have read it. All right, the key word is popsicle. The next book that I tried, and I ended up DNFing, was I Was Jane Austen's Best Friend by Cora Harrison. This is a YA fictional story, very fictional story about Jane Austen's best friend. It's epistolary in places. She's writing in letters and in her diary. And I think it could be a cute book for somebody else. It's not me. There's cute illustrations even in it, little drawings. I think it's supposed to be actually the girl, the narrator, the girl that is the best friend, that is drawing these in her diary. And so they're cute, and it is fun. There's little pages here for the diaries and for the letters. But I think part of it was that it was really it's kind of juvenile written. It's written kind of in a juvenile way, but you know, it's a YA, but it's just kind of like super Y. It's like a YYYA. And so that was kind of, I don't know, just wasn't really into that. But also the story takes some major liberties with the actual like true storyline of Jane Austen. And sometimes that doesn't bother me, but in this case, it's actually bothering me. This girl, Jenny, is based on the actual person, Jane Cooper, who I believe was a cousin of Jane Austen, maybe distantly. I don't remember, but I remember reading about her a long time ago. But I know that they were very young when they were at school together. They were like, Jane Austen was like 7 or something. It was actually Cassandra, her sister, that was going off to school, and Jane wanted to go too, so they let her go. She's very young, and they got sick. Like, I think typhoid maybe broke out in the school, and lots of people got sick. And then the headmistress, like, thought it was fine and she had it under control, so she didn't contact the parents. But thankfully, Jane Cooper did contact Jane Austen's mother, wrote her a letter, and was like, Jane is very, very sick and I'm very worried about her. And so all the mothers came and got their children. Jane Cooper went home and the 2 Austen girls went home. And unfortunately, Jane Cooper's mother actually died from it. She got the typhoid from her daughter and it affected her badly and she died from it. Everybody else healed from it. And that's the real life story, right? And then I think I'm not exactly sure about this, but I think that later in life, Jane Cooper may have come to live with the Austens for like a year. But that part I don't exactly remember. Anyway, this story is supposed to be based on that, but instead of them being little girls, they're teenagers. And Jane Cooper sneaks out and she's Jenny Cooper in the book, and she sneaks out to try to mail the letter to Jane Austen's mom to tell her how sick she is. She meets a man, and the story kind of goes where I guess Jenny Cooper goes home to stay with the Austens, and it looks like there's romance with that guy as well as just teenage stuff. Some of the Goodreads entries that I read talk about how Jane Austen herself is just made to be really bratty in this book, and I don't know. I read a little bit of it and I was like, and I went and read the Goodreads. I was like, yeah, I don't want to read this. So anyway, if you want to read this, I don't know. I'll probably put it in my Pango. You guys can get it if you want to, or find it somewhere. All right, then yesterday I read another chapter in Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts. This is a book that I'm going through 1 chapter a month throughout this year. I adore Christopher de Hamel's writing. I want to find everything he ever wrote because I'm really, really loving his style. He's just so fun. He brings you into his research and he makes funny jokes, and you can tell he's just really imagining his audience as he's writing. I don't know, really adore him. But this chapter was on this late 11th century manuscript. That's what it looks like on the outside. And in this manuscript, let's see, this is what it looks like on the first couple of pages. This is a copy of Jerome's comments on the book of Isaiah. And this book can be found at Oxford, the Bodleian Library. And the chapter is called Hugo Pictor because Hugo Pictor is this guy right here. He made this little caricature of himself on one of the pages. He was one of the artists for this particular copy. And I think he wrote stuff as well as drew stuff in this particular copy. And so that's the name of this chapter, talking about him. It starts off talking about the Bodleian Library and the guy who sort of started it, how that got started. Thomas Bodley or Bodley, let me know, guys. But yeah, Sir Thomas Bodley, that's what we're going to go with. That guy. So it talks about the history of that library. And it talks about the history of books that were, you know, translations of Jerome and other early Christian scholars. It was really interesting actually to learn about all of the different manuscripts they have of different early Christian writers there at that library as well as at other libraries in England. It's very cool actually that so many of those writings are still around. I very much want to find a biography of Sir Thomas Bodley, as well as a copy of Jerome's comments on Isaiah. That would be really interesting. So then the author talks about like the different reading rooms. Like this is the old reading room for Baehr manuscripts. This is the new one. He talks about that. He obviously has some history there and is familiar there. I think he actually did study at Oxford a little. And then just random little facts. Like, for instance, it talked about in the medieval times, there was a distinctive pointed hat worn by medieval Jews in the Holy Roman Empire. And I think that's very interesting because what do we depict in a distinctive pointed hat now, right? Magicians and witches and that sort of thing. But in the medieval times, it was associated with Jewish people. And that just one of those things that you just wonder about, right? Is that an on-purpose connection? And if so, that's pretty sad. But it also talked about like getting holes in the parchment and how they would sew them up. Like it's just such an interesting study to study about these rare books. I think it's just so cool. And then the book itself, this particular one that has the little drawing of Hugo Pictor and all that in it, is identified within the academic world or the library world. And it said that because they're all kind of like copies of one another, right? Like say you have all the copies of the Thoughts of Saint Jerome, the first page would be the same, right? It would all start out the same. Like these are the thoughts of Jerome on the book of Isaiah or whatever, right? But the second page would probably not be the same as the first because, you know, size of handwriting, size of drawing, size of parchment, whatever. The first page is going to start off the same, but the second page might start off with different words, right? Kind of like if you have a whole bunch of different Bibles, right? The first page of Genesis is going to start off the same, but the second page of Genesis is going to look different in each Bible depending on its size and translation and size of the print and all that. That's kind of what he was saying. So they identify these different manuscripts based on the words on the second page. The opening words of the second leaf, right? So I thought that was so interesting. Like, it's not something I really thought about, but it's true. And it's a great way to identify them, to tell the different manuscripts apart when you're speaking about them. And then it talked about like how different people had made corrections over time. Here's a copy of the same book, but different copy at Salisbury Cathedral. And this one, he was saying how it doesn't have any illustrations hardly at all. So they had, you know, copied one from the other, probably. Here's some more of the illuminated pages. So anyway, just very much enjoying this study. If you guys are interested at all in medieval stuff, old books, old manuscripts, this is a great resource. I'm just loving this book so much, and I'm glad that I'm going through it very slowly. Just taking it in, right? All right, and then I wanted to share with you guys I recently put together this Bible study bag. Pride and Prejudice bag. So cute. But I wanted all my Bible study stuff in one place just because I'm actually going through quite a few. So I thought I would show you guys. Here's my Bible. And then I am going through this devotional. This is the Anne of Green Gables devotional by Rachel Dodge. And I know some of you have talked about like the Jane Austen one. I have this one, Jane Austen one, and I have one other. Oh, I can't remember which one it is now. But anyway, she's done a few on literature, different literature. So I'm loving this. I've been going through this one. The other thing that I have been going through for Bible study is I'm going through the Psalms. This week, I'm hoping to get back to my in-person Bible study group. Haven't been able to do that for a couple of months because my adult daughters got new jobs and they needed rides and all that. But they both have cars now, so I should be able to get back to my in-person Bible study. But I've been doing this Bible study guide. This is put together by Kelley from Bookish Kelley. And this is how it looks inside. And there's a double page like this for each of the Psalms. So I've been going through those and just filling in the little prompts and thinking about the Psalms. And that's been really nice. I'm really thankful for this resource. I hope Kelley puts together some for some other Bible books as well. And then alongside that, I have been reading the Sidney Psalter. This is from the time of the English Renaissance. And her brother, Mary Sidney's brother, Philip, was part of the court of Queen Elizabeth I, I believe. Philip and Mary put together, they rewrote the Psalms, basically, to fit into English Renaissance-y sort of verse to be put to music. And they're very poetic. They're very sweet. I love them. Some of them really funny. I just really like how they put together these in rhyme. And then somewhere along the line, while they were putting this together, Philip, I think, passed away, and so Mary finished it. This wasn't published until like the 18th century or something, so they just kind of held on to it for a while. And so I got this copy of it and have been really looking forward to going through this. It's on my 50 by 50, and so each time I finish reading the Psalms in my translation of the Bible and filling out the workbook, then I read the Psalm in the Philip and Mary translation, right? So it's been really fun. I'm enjoying that a lot. So that's what I'm doing for Bible study. And then I am currently reading Castle of the Winds, the third book in the Secrets of Ormdale by Christina Baehr. And I'm like page 54, so I guess that's like a fifth of the way through. I'm not super into this story, but I'm not into it. I think like I'm just enough into it to be curious about what happens, but I'm not enough into it to be following every word, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm just kind of skimming through it, but I am reading everything. I think it's just that it doesn't, like, the writing isn't super deep, right? So you're just kind of able to read it sort of quickly. It very much feels like a YA book to me, but I don't think it's marketed that way, but it doesn't really matter. It's just it's a simple and quick read if you're interested in this type of story. It's a fantasy story, has dragons. And this is my first dragon story, so I think that that's kind of part of it. Like, I've read the first two, right? So this is my first dragon series, I guess. So I think that part of it is just like the subject matter is not something that I'm used to reading. I don't have like this deep love for fantasy and dragon stories like a lot of my booktube friends do. And so I'm kind of just like, really, I'm honestly just reading it for you guys because everybody keeps saying what a great story, and series that it is. And the cover art is so pretty. And so I'm just really kind of reading it so I don't have FOMO. Anyway, that's what I'm reading. By the time I check in next time, I'll be done with it and some other stuff. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me know in the comment section what you guys are reading, how your week's going, and how your summer's going. I really don't have a whole lot on my schedule this week. I think Wednesday we're keeping our grandkids all day because my kids are going on a float trip and they're going to stay the night. But other than that, it's a pretty chill week. All right, hope everybody's doing well. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.